Let's look at some common money narratives. So just to define this, we call them stories, narratives, frames, blueprints. I give it different words because each word adds something slightly to it. So they're stories, but they're not necessarily a conscious cognitive story. In fact, they're probably not. They're stories that are behind you running the show. They're also embodiments, ways of being. We get taught them as kids. We get taught them in our culture. We'll go into where they come from. It's one way of discovering them. But they're framing our whole approach to money. And again, this underpins marketing, can undermine your marketing efforts. So let's start with some common ones. Think about the things you were told as kids. Maybe you were told money didn't grow or doesn't grow on trees. This idea of there's not enough money. So we're going to look at scarcity. There's a whole other video on that. Maybe you were told you have to work hard to make money. So you're given a certain narrative, like you should be working really hard, you should be sweating to make money. Maybe you were told that money was secret. Now, again, you might not have been told that. This is one that I had, that money was a little something we don't talk about. So how did I learn that? Well, I remember I've got this distinct memory of my parents on the dining room table. I remember the exact type of the table, where it was in the house, like it was yesterday, with all these bills on the table, and they were arguing with each other, raising their voices. They looked stressed, they were holding their heads. And I said, I don't know how old I was. I was maybe like 8 or 9. So sometimes people learn younger than that. But I said, Mum, Dad, what's going on? Can I help? What's the matter? And they said, it's not your business, don't worry about it. And the very clear message was, it was taboo. It was something they didn't want. And they were pretty open parents. They would talk to me about all sorts of things, politics, or talk about marriage or children or whatever, but they wouldn't talk about money. So the message I got was money was stressful, because I could see it on their faces, right? Money was stressful and money was secret. And that was a blueprint that at that moment got embedded into me at that time. So is money secret? That's one you could ask. Is it stressful? Was money a source of joy? Maybe you were taught that, another thing I got was my granddad slipping me tenors when my mum wasn't looking. When I go see my Irish granddad, he slipped me a £10 note, which is quite a lot of money when you're 10, and back in the 80s or whatever. And again, money's secret. He wasn't telling my mum, But there I'm learning money is a reward. Money's for being a good boy. Maybe you were rewarded by your parents that way as this exchange for love. Now, my granddad also gave me a lot of love in other ways. He was a great guy and he'd take me gardening and just be nice to me. And so I didn't get the message that money was the only way to show love, or money was a compensation somehow. You might have got a different message, right? If that was the only way a parent or grandparent said something. Or somehow money was for special occasions. Maybe that kind of came in. Not money, not just abundant money. You had to wait for your birthday or something, right? Also, my granddad wouldn't make me do anything for that money. So I wasn't learning necessarily you have to work hard for money. I was more just learning, money just comes to you. And I have kind of a trust in that now, which is a good and a bad thing. Any money story could be more or less healthy, but often they have a couple of sides, Some definitely won't serve you. We'll come to some of those, but often like that one, money just comes to you. Well, that can lead to a trust, but it can also lead to being too trusting, just being naive and just thinking you don't have to work for any money, right? Another common story, money is the root of all evil. We'll talk about this one in regard to spirituality, right? It's actually in the biblical quotes technically is the love of money, or the obsession with money. It's more actually how the Bible quote should be translated, but that's in our culture. Nothing comes for free. Or all the best things in life are free. These are very different stories you could have been educated in. Is there enough money? Is there abundant money? Again, how you grow up. How did your parents scrimp and save? Did they say, we don't have money for that? Was that the story you were given? Money is dangerous. That's one I've come across in a lot of communist countries. If you under Stalin, if you had an extra cow, if you were a kulak who was just a successful farmer, you'd be killed. They had a quota of kulaks to kill, literally. So it's just being a slightly better off farmer who the other farmer resented would be enough to get you killed. So my wife's Ukrainian, she's always don't tell people about your money. Don't tell people you've done well. Don't tell people how much money you made on that course. I'm like, Daria, chill, That's the thing of money's dangerous. That's really in her bones, and actually, my wife's an interesting example because she grew up pretty rich. So she always has a feeling of abundance, there's enough. So money will just come to her. It's kind of how she feels sometimes, which is interesting in a marriage. But she has this other part from another generation of there's not enough money. So there's this kind of different layers to it sometimes, because even though she grew up rich, a generation before that, they were, pretty poor Ukrainians in the USSR. So, there's some famines and stuff there going on. So, money could be survival in a situation like that. More money, more problems. That's another one. Money causes stress, or money solves stress. Money is a pleasure to be enjoyed, or money is something to be secreted away. Money is something we have to store for a rainy day. What else? All rich people are criminals, all rich people are crooks. That's another common narrative. In some countries, like when I'm working modern day Russia, I actually kind of see that. I'm like, wow, you were the first to grab the money in the 90s, but not everyone, right? So it's like looking at the stories where they come from. There's some common ones to get you started. Hopefully you're already starting to think about this. And as this module goes on, we'll look at some other ways to reveal your money stories.